You won't believe what happened next. Mia had worked for months, saving every last penny, to start her dream coffee business, but in a single moment she gave it all away to a struggling homeless veteran who couldn't afford his medication. No hesitation, no second guessing, just pure kindness. Her parents were furious, strangers called her naive. But then, something unbelievable happened. The veteran's emotional post about Mia's selflessness went viral, catching the attention of thousands, including military officials. And before she knew it, armed soldiers and a high-ranking general were standing at her front door. What they had to say? It left her entire family speechless. But that was just the beginning, because in a shocking twist, Mia didn't just receive a thank you. She was given something that would change her life forever. What really happened behind those doors? And how did a simple act of kindness turn into something no one saw coming? Stay with me, because this is the kind of story that proves fate works in mysterious ways. And if you love stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next mind-blowing twist. Let's dive in. Mia had spent months scrimping and saving every last penny to make her dream come true. A tiny coffee cart that would finally give her financial independence. She worked long shifts, skipped nights out with friends, and lived on instant noodles just to stash away $1,000. That money wasn't just cash, it was the foundation of her future. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. Walking home one evening, she spotted an elderly man struggling to count his coins at the pharmacy counter. His frail hands trembled as he realized he didn't have enough to pay for his medication. The look in his eyes, desperation mixed with quiet resignation, hit Mia like a punch to the gut. Without hesitation, she stepped forward. "I'll cover it," she said, reaching into her bag and pulling out the very money she had fought so hard to save. The cashier hesitated, glancing between Mia and the old man, but eventually rang up the purchase. The veteran, his war-torn jacket barely holding together, turned to Mia, his eyes welling up. "Why?" he asked, voice cracking. Mia just smiled. "Because you need it more than I do." She had no idea that this one moment of kindness would change her life forever. As she walked away, reality set in. The $1,000 were gone, just like that. Her dream, slipping through her fingers. Had she just made the biggest mistake of her life? Doubt crept in, but deep down, she knew she couldn't have done anything differently. Some choices aren't about logic or planning. They're about doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything. The veteran, still shaken, sat on the curb outside the pharmacy, clutching the bag of medicine as if it were a lifeline. He pulled out his phone, hesitated for a moment, then started typing. He had to share what had just happened. He had to tell the world about the young woman who had given away her future for a stranger. Little did Mia know the wheels of fate had just been set in motion, and within hours, her name would be everywhere. Mia barely had time to process what she had done before she arrived home, where a storm was brewing. As soon as she stepped through the door, her mother's eyes narrowed. "Mia, where's the money?" The weight of her decision suddenly felt unbearable. How was she supposed to explain this? She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I gave it away," she admitted. Silence. Her parents stared at her, their expressions frozen between disbelief and anger. Her father was the first to speak. "You... what?" His voice was eerily calm, but Mia could hear the tension beneath it. "Mia, we helped you save that money. That wasn't just yours. It was for your future." Her mother, usually the more understanding one, shook her head, rubbing her temples. "Please, tell me this is a joke." But Mia stood her ground. "He needed it," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "He was a veteran. He couldn't afford his medication. I couldn't just walk away." The frustration in the room was palpable. Her parents weren't cruel people, but they had struggled their whole lives to provide for Mia. They had sacrificed vacations, new clothes, even their own comforts to help her chase her dream. And now, in their eyes, she had thrown it all away for a stranger. "How do you know he wasn't scamming you?" her father asked, his voice rising. "People take advantage of kindness all the time." Mia flinched at his words. It was a fair question. What if she had been fooled? What if she had been naive? Doubt gnawed at her, but deep inside, something told her she had done the right thing. But that wasn't enough to ease her parents' disappointment. "You're going to have to start over," her mother said finally, her voice softer but laced with exhaustion. "We can't help you again, Mia. If you want that coffee and cart, you're going to have to figure it out on your own." The words stung, but Mia nodded. She understood this was her choice, and now she had to live with it. As she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Mia felt the weight of regret pressing down on her, not because she had helped the veteran, but because she had no idea how she was going to fix everything. What now? How would she rebuild what she had lost? But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the world had already taken notice, and by morning, everything would be different. Mia had no idea that while she was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling in frustration, her story was already spreading like wildfire. The veteran, still overwhelmed by what had happened, had taken to social media to share his encounter with the young woman who had given up everything for him. He didn't just post a simple thank you, he poured his heart out. He talked about the struggles of aging veterans, the loneliness, the financial hardships, and how, for the first time in years, someone had treated him like he mattered. "She saved me," he wrote, "not just with the money, but by reminding me that kindness still exists." What happened next was beyond anything Mia could have imagined. Within hours, the post went viral. Thousands of people shared it, commenting on how her selflessness had restored their faith in humanity. Strangers began searching for her, desperate to know who she was. Hashtags like "Mia the Hero" and "Kindness Matters" started trending. But it wasn't just ordinary people taking notice. Something much bigger was brewing in the background. Among those who saw the post were high-ranking military officials, veterans, soldiers. Even generals began sharing the story, praising Mia for what she had done. "This is the kind of character we need more of in this world," one retired officer tweeted. Another user, claiming to be part of a military family, commented, "People forget what these men and women have sacrificed. Mia didn't, and that means everything." The attention snowballed. News outlets picked up the story. Reporters started digging. Everyone wanted to know, who was this girl who had given up her future for a complete stranger? Meanwhile, Mia was completely oblivious. She woke up to find her phone flooded with notifications, missed calls, messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years, even a few emails from journalists requesting interviews. Confused, she scrolled through her feed, her heart racing as she saw her own name trending. Her story was everywhere. But the real shock came when she noticed an unfamiliar number calling her. It wasn't a news outlet. It wasn't a random supporter. It was someone much more unexpected. Because by now, the military had taken notice, and they weren't just watching from the sidelines. They were about to make a move that no one, least of all Mia, could have ever seen coming. Mia barely had time to process what was happening before a deep rumbling outside made her heart skip a beat. The sound of heavy engines, tires crunching against the pavement. She rushed to the window, and what she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Military vehicles. Not one, not two, but an entire convoy rolling down her quiet suburban street. Neighbors peeked out of their doors. Some even stepped onto their porches, whispering to each other, trying to understand what on earth was going on. Then came the knock. Firm, measured, almost rehearsed. Mia hesitated, her pulse hammering. What was this? Some kind of mistake? The moment she opened the door, the air seemed to shift. Standing before her was a man in full military uniform, his presence commanding yet calm. Behind him, a group of soldiers stood at attention, their expressions unreadable, but it was the patch on the man's chest that made Mia's stomach flip. General Ethan Caldwell, a name she had only ever heard on the news, attached to stories of high-stakes missions and battlefield heroics. "Miss Carter?" he asked, his voice steady, almost formal. Mia could barely nod. "May we come in?" Her parents, still in their pajamas, exchanged bewildered glances. This wasn't real. This had to be a dream, but it wasn't. As the general stepped inside, he removed his cap, his sharp eyes softening just slightly. "We are here," he began, "because we heard about what you did." The room fell into silence. Mia felt her parents' eyes dart toward her, but she couldn't speak. She couldn't even move. "Your kindness didn't go unnoticed," the general continued. "In fact, it reached a lot further than you might think." Her mother placed a shaky hand over her mouth, while her father stood frozen, hands clenched at his sides. What does this mean?" he finally managed to ask. The general smiled, but there was something weighty behind it, something serious. "It means," he said, "that we're here to personally thank Mia for what she did for one of our own." Mia's head spun. The military had come to her house to thank her. This was unreal, but before she could even begin to wrap her mind around it, General Caldwell took a step closer. "And that's not all," he added. "We didn't just come here to say thank you. We came here because we believe people like you deserve recognition. Real recognition." Something in his tone sent a shiver down Mia's spine, because whatever was coming next was about to change her life forever. Mia sat frozen, her mind struggling to catch up with reality. General Caldwell's words echoed in her head. Recognition. The weight of the moment settled over her like a heavy blanket. Whatever was about to happen, it wasn't just some polite thank you. This was bigger, way bigger. Then, without warning, one of the soldiers stepped forward, holding something in his gloved hands. A velvet box, deep navy blue, its golden emblem catching the light. Mia's throat tightened. She had seen boxes like that before, in old war documentaries, in ceremonies, honoring heroes. Her parents exchanged stunned glances, but no one spoke. The general took a deep breath, then met Mia's gaze. "The Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration awarded in this country," he said, his voice steady. "But there are rare occasions when we bestow a civilian with a distinguished honor, one reserved for acts of extraordinary courage and selflessness." His eyes softened just a bit. "And Mia, what you did, that was extraordinary." Her mother let out a quiet gasp. Her father took a slow step forward, as if to make sure this was real. And Mia, she couldn't breathe. General Caldwell nodded toward the soldier, who carefully opened the box. Inside, resting on a pristine velvet cushion, was a gleaming medal, its intricate design reflecting the light like something out of a dream. "Mia Carter," the general continued, "for your selfless act of compassion, for embodying the values we hold dear, and for reminding this nation what true honor looks like. It is my privilege to present you with the Civilian Medal of Honor." The room seemed to shrink around her. Mia's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. A medal, an actual medal. She had simply done what felt right. No plan, no expectations. Just a moment of instinct, a decision made in seconds. And now, this. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes as the general gently draped the ribbon around her neck. The weight of it, both physical and symbolic, sent a shiver down her spine. The soldiers in the room raised their hands in a crisp salute. Her parents stood frozen, caught between pride and disbelief. Outside, neighbors whispered, their faces pressed to their windows, witnessing something they would never forget. Mia swallowed hard. This was real. This was happening. And yet, even as the gravity of it all sank in, she had no idea that the surprises weren't over, because what came next would change everything. Mia barely had time to process the weight of the medal hanging around her. Neck before General Caldwell spoke again. "There's one more thing," he said, his tone shifting slightly. The tension in the room tightened. What more could there possibly be? Her parents, still reeling from everything that had just unfolded, looked at each other in confusion. The general reached into his pocket, pulling out a sleek white envelope, its official seal gleaming under the light. He handed it to her. Mia's fingers trembled as she carefully opened it, unfolding the paper inside. I skimmed the words, but it took her a moment to fully register what she was looking at. A full-ride scholarship. Not just to any school, but to a top-tier university, one that she had never even considered because of the sheer cost. A school that could change her entire future. Her breath caught. This can't be real. General Caldwell smiled. It's very real. The military and several veteran organizations came together after hearing your story. They wanted to make sure someone like you, someone who represents the best of what this country stands for, gets every opportunity she deserves. Mia's mother let out a choked sob, covering her mouth while her father's eyes glistened with emotions he wasn't used to showing. A scholarship. A future she never thought she'd be able to afford. And just when she thought it couldn't get any more surreal, the general turned to one of the soldiers, who stepped forward, carrying another envelope. Mia's pulse pounded as she took it, her mind racing. Inside was a check. But not just any check. A sum large enough to buy not just a coffee cart, but to launch an entire small business. The veteran you helped, the general explained, inspired countless people. Many of them were fellow veterans who wanted to pay it forward. They pooled their resources to make sure your dream doesn't have to wait. Mia's legs nearly gave out. She had given everything she had, expecting nothing in return. Now she was holding the keys to a future she never thought possible. Tears blurred her vision as she looked up at the general. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he said simply. Just promise us one thing. Keep paying it forward. Mia gripped the check in one hand, the scholarship letter in the other, her heart pounding. Her life had changed in a single moment. And now, standing in the middle of her tiny living room, surrounded by soldiers, her parents, and the weight of the unbelievable, she knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. Mia stood outside the small lot she had just rented, staring at it in disbelief. The money from the veterans had been more than enough to get her coffee business off the ground, but even now, as she looked at the freshly painted cart with her name on it, she couldn't believe this was real. Just days ago, she had nothing. Now she had everything she needed to turn her dream into reality. The grand opening was unlike anything she had ever imagined. News of her story had spread far and wide, and when the day finally arrived, people came from all over just to support her. Veterans showed up in their uniforms, some saluting her as they ordered their coffee. Families brought their children, telling them Mia's story as an example of kindness and integrity. Even strangers who had followed her journey online came, eager to witness the young woman who had given everything and gained even more in return. Her parents stood by her side, their initial disappointment long forgotten, replaced with a pride they couldn't put into words. We thought you had lost everything, her father admitted, watching as she served her first customer. Turns out you gained more than we ever could have imagined. Mia smiled, feeling the warmth of the moment settle in. But she wasn't just thinking about the coffee cart. She was thinking about what it represented. Every cup she handed out was a reminder of how kindness could ripple outward, how a single moment of generosity could change not just one life, but many. As the day went on, the crowd never thinned. People kept coming, eager to be part of something special. The veteran she had helped that day at the pharmacy even made an appearance, his eyes misty as he hugged her. You saved my life, he told her. I just wanted to be here, to see you start yours. Mia wiped her eyes, overwhelmed with gratitude. This wasn't just a business. It was a testament to everything she had learned, everything she had sacrificed, and everything she had gained. And as she looked around at the people who had come to support her, she knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning of something far greater than she had ever imagined. Mia's journey had started with a single act of kindness, one that at the time felt like a sacrifice. She had no idea that giving away her last $1,000 would set off a chain reaction that would change not only her life, but the lives of countless others. Looking back, it was almost surreal. She had faced doubt, disappointment, and uncertainty, yet every step had led her to something greater. What she learned was simple. True generosity never goes unnoticed. It doesn't always come back the way you expect, but it always finds a way. For Mia, it returned in the form of a community rallying behind her, of strangers moved by her kindness, of doors opening that she never even knew existed. She had lost her savings, but in return she gained an education, a business, and a story that would inspire people for years to come. Her parents, once skeptical, had become her biggest supporters, telling her story to anyone who would listen. The military's recognition had not only honored her, but had also shined a light on the struggles of veterans in ways she never anticipated. And her coffee cart, it wasn't just a business, it was a symbol, a reminder that even the smallest act of compassion can spark something extraordinary. But perhaps the most important lesson was this: you never know how far a simple act of kindness can reach. Mia had given without expecting anything in return. She had no idea her story would touch the hearts of thousands, that it would inspire people across the country to pay it forward. And as she stood behind her coffee cart, serving customers with a smile, she knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. Because kindness, it doesn't end with one person. It spreads, it grows, and sometimes it comes back in ways you never could have imagined. So now I have just one question for you. Would you have done the same? Mia's story proves that one simple act of kindness can change everything. But what do you think? Was it just pure luck that things turned out the way they did? Or was this a sign that good deeds always come back around? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this incredible twist of fate. And if this story blew your mind, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable real-life stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Oh, and before you go, click here to watch another shocking story that will make you question everything you thought you knew. I'll see you there.